How about going into the marble now? As we continue, we're going to get this much more smoothed out looking and nice looking. And I can even incorporate some vine charcoal action. Now there's something that I haven't talked about yet, and that is how do you preserve your drawings? And there's something called spray fixative. So when I have a can handy, I'll show you what that's all about. In the meantime, just when you're finished the drawings, I suggest that you just put them somewhere where they're not going to get damaged. Okay, so I'm going to start concentrating on the effects of marble. I'm going to figure out where are my important lines, and there's a couple here. These lines represent the vein in the marble. I got the angles. You could use your hand like this, like you're going to let a bird land on your finger, like your finger's a perch, and hold it at the angle of what you're trying to capture, and you just bring it over here like that, and I think I got that off. See, it should be more like this. So see how I can just fix myself like that? It goes like this. These angles are like that. See how I was able to do that? Always double check. I sometimes have to do more than just one mark, and I have to approximate, and I go, well, okay, I think this one is the best one. Looking at my subject matter again and again, I think we have it. Let's see, this goes away. Oh, look at that, that was kind of neat, but I don't know if I want that effect. That goes away, and this goes away. Okay. Remember we talked about if we have a mark we don't like, instead of always having to reach for the eraser, just take your chamois cloth. Kind of let it know who's boss. Like that. This area here is pretty much like a gray area that has a little bit of a value shift and a textural shift like that. That's about it. And so I'm mindful of that. I'm going to come over here, pay attention to this other gradient effect that I see in the marble. Just, you know, slightly prodding along here. We didn't talk about the shadow. And so now I'm going to put the shadow indicators right here in the form of a line. Kind of slips into the shadows here like that, and it kind of goes off like that. And so, and what happens is back here, the other end of the shadow is like that. And so we don't have to worry about that because it's going to go off into the dark. So we're okay there. Again, you could use your vine charcoal to sort of like figure out your values. And we'll do that with this particular drawing. We're getting there. And it's going to be really complicated. There's a lot of activities going on here. There's reflection, because the marble is like a mirror surface. Now there's also something known as editing. When you look at really good drawings, I don't think that the artist is drawing everything they see. They edit things out. They omit things that might not be aesthetically pleasing to the artist's eye. And I tend to have students simplify things just because it's so darn hard to draw, you know. So it's a combination of both, you know. It's economical, but it's also aesthetics. So here I'm trying to gather up the shadow here. Here is the shadow area. See that? It really helps define this form. And then it gets tricky because here it gets really dark and busy. Now again, when you take your value scale, without even walking over to your subject, you can hold your value scale like to a part or an area of your subject. Like the bottom of the nest, I'm sliding it from 80 to 90, like we talked about when drawing the pear. And so I can just kind of hold this. Hopefully you can see that. This is right underneath what I'm looking at in front of me, which is the nest. And it looks like the darker areas is between a 90 and a 95. And so when I come over here, this has to be either this black or somewhere in between here and here. But the Vine charcoal is not going to be able to give us that effect. We're just using the Vine charcoal to help figure and map things out. Big difference. So right now I'm just going to lock in some of these layers of values. Layers of value. Here we go like that. Just mapping it out. And we know that the nest is going to be darker than the marble up front here like that. This, although I'm supposed to be working on the background, it just sort of was calling to me just to say, look, this is going to be darker than the marble. This here is darker than this. So let's just kind of focus back on the marble here. And I can even get some charcoal pencil action. And let's try with an HB. And I wanted to put more veins here, but I don't see them, so I'm not going to make them up for this. Sometimes I do make things up like that, but I'm not going to do that for this. This is for the learner, so I'm not going to expect you to do that right now. I just want to come in here with this pretty amazing characteristic of marble. Marble is really cool. I love marble. And just sort of like work that into the striations that I have with the black dark regions of this background. I'm going to make sure that camera is lined up properly. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. This might be a long old video. If it's getting to be really long, because I'm not going to cheat the viewer, you know, too much, I'll just have to make it in 2 parts. We'll see. I'm still trying to figure myself out. I'm still getting my wings when it comes to this filming adventure. Some cool effects that you see here because of the paper itself and the application of this bedding that I put in here. This tonal treatment of the paper. It just incorporates into the texture of the marble. Pretty cool. Again, I like using my left hand when I can. It's better for you because you can see better than me using my right hand and going like that, right? So it's good for all of us. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Sometimes you can come in with a crosshatch. Diagonal. I'm just not going like that. You see how I'm not going scribbly like that? It's pretty important. And you don't want to press too hard. You want to rest on the surface. If you need to get something darker, what do? You reach for a darker pencil. This one's kind of tricky. It's not a series of lines anymore. Now I got to get into this constricting. Now I can use what's called constriction. See that? That's almost like scribbling. We talk about constriction, remember? And it kind of works for this marbly thing here. Marbly vein. We'll hit it with a darker pencil in a minute. I intend to finish this floor, call it a floor, marble floor, before I get into the nest. That's what we're doing. We're going at it. No marble slab will be unturned. Okay. And if I wanted to lighten up an area, again, chamois cloth, this here needs to be, look how nice that comes off. See that? Because that area needed to have a little bit of a lift, tonal lift, like that. See that? And then with the brush, I can come in here and soften this a little bit. See how I'm not just going all over the place? I could, but I'm a little bit more conservative than that. Let's just come over here like that. Then I have to clean up my brush like that. See how I'm doing this stuff? That's what this paper is good for that I'm pointing at. This cushion paper is also good for what I'm doing right now. So these are little tricks that you want to remember. These are, I think, the more valuable things you're learning with my drawing demonstrations. Stuff that really is not talked about too much. I know it's out there, but I haven't found it. I learned it somewhere else. Now I can come in with my little Q-tip swab. And these things begin to unravel as you use them. That's why you should have more on hand. Need to get a darker pencil by now. And I think the HB is great for a lot of things, but not for like layering dark marks, because I need to get some more dark marks in here. So now I'm using a 4B. I think a 2B would be good too. See that? Marble is really beautiful. See how that is? It's really cool. There's like something kind of going on over here, creeping out over here like that. Kind of goes up underneath the nest. Using the tortillon now. sometimes I have to do the following. I have to bring this out beyond the size of the crack or vein. They are kind of like cracks, aren't they? I don't know. They're not actually vein. They look like cracks, but they're veins. So you see, even that looks legitimate, but that's not how that is. And you know, I just want to be a little bit more accurate in what I'm drawing. And so now I'm going to use my kneaded eraser to do some drawing with it. I think that's what we should do. Come in here and... So you're seeing a really good portion of this, right? I don't want to draw all this stuff and then turn on the camera. I want you to see some of this stuff. So you see how we're getting that very important feature. I've been sort of a bad boy not letting you in on this. Here's what we have so far. So I'm still working on the marble, but I thought you should see some of the action. Oh, I made a mistake. You see that? That doesn't have to be there. So all you gotta do is this. I'm not gonna edit that, just so you can kind of see it in real time. How you can just maneuver around these kinds of things. See that? I kind of like that effect. See that? It's kind of neat, right? And so what do you do when your blending stub is getting dirty? Try this. See, I'm doing this rapidly while I'm drawing. I just come over here on the side of the paper and just like that. I couldn't do that on my drawing paper, so this is great, and I couldn't do it on this, so... And then when it's time, I just discard this and put another one on there. See that? Okay, let's come over here now. This will probably be a long video, so we'll have to have it in maybe 2 parts. We haven't even gotten into the nest yet. But what we're doing here is major investment. This is very important what we're doing. We're setting ourselves up for a very successful drawing by using these techniques. Going from the back into the front. All of that. And then this little thing. We don't need that. Just see how that might be distracting? Let's get rid of that. And then this, we don't need that right here. See that? Using my pinky again. It's all part of the aesthetic appeal. And look how my pinky works really good for this. And again, you know, I'm going to confess that I sometimes use my own person to do the blending. I don't think it's completely wrong. It's just you don't want to eat afterwards without washing your hands, for one thing. But also you don't want to do it for the whole drawing experience. That's what these are for. And I can't with my pinky do this. You see? I can't go in there with my pinky and do this. Very important to remember. How about this? I couldn't do that with my pinky either. And this is getting really tricky, but we will do it. Kind of like all the activity that's going on here. It's kind of busy. It's almost like there's you know, there's something going on. You know, it's just interesting. You know, and then here this is kind of neat. Something going on here. Look at some Rembrandt paintings and then get back to me. Even his engravings. Look at his engravings, his etchings. I think the proper terminology is his etchings, his intaglio plates. Look at some of those and get back to me. See how I'm doing this? I'm kind of like drawing over here with this stuff. I'm really, I can incorporate that into the activity of the strands of grass and also the shadow. This is supposed to be the shadow area. And the reason why it's not as dark as it might have been is because of the reflected light and all that other stuff. And you know, there is no reflected light technically because you don't see it in this environment. But with my setup, that gray wall, the light bounces off of that and it's purposely hitting back on the subject to create the classical shading arrangement of the light, core of shadow, reflected light, cast shadow. It's really important. So, and we let that reflected light to do its business in our drawing for that aesthetic effect. That's something that I might not have mentioned, so I might have to repeat that from time to time as we continue these drawings from life. Let's step back a little bit. So I have more detail to show you for the marble. And I'll tinker with it a little bit and you can see. No, I don't want that there. Again, the dirty blender got the best of me. I'm going to use a kneaded eraser to get rid of that. I did some hatch marks over here to kind of define the rigidity of the marble. I just like the way those marks look, and there's tone there on the marble slab where I did this, and it's almost done. The only thing I didn't do is add a little bit of stuff with this. Like if I were just to show you, like this is the kind of thing that you really get out of the white action. You see that with this, but we'll refrain from using this until we're done with the whole drawing. So let's just get into drawing the nest. And I might want to define some main value shapes. Think of this in terms of a series or a collection of shapes. And I have my value scale here when I need it. Everything is within this arm's reach. I have everything that I need over here that you can't see. And I showed you all the materials that we're using, so just have like a setup for yourself that works for you. And that way you don't have to always walk away from your easel, just reach it. Let's get some value shapes established. I'm going to come from the back to the front. It's interesting for me as an instructor, because the only time I tend to do representational work is when I teach my classes anymore. But you know, it's funny because thinking like before we were quarantined, I was really investing more time doing demos for the class. We had a camera setup and a big television screen on the wall, and I started taking advantage of it. And this class that I was teaching was just 1 day a week. And we'd be in that room for like 5 hours at a time. So I was like, you know, I'm going to take advantage of this and do some really, you know, good demos. You know, like dedicated. And like, we're talking like 4-hour demos. Like 3-4 hour demos. So again, I'm coming, you know, I'm doing something different that I might not have showed you. I'm actually using the vine charcoal for effect. And there's no law against that. And so... and I'm kind of just meandering now, talking with you, and now I'm just tinkering with the environment, the background, and the marble, now the foreground, and it's a lot of fun, you know. It looks kind of neat. But let's get back over here. I think that's what we were supposed to do. And I don't want to turn the camera off right now. You're going to look at what I'm doing. And I might make some mistakes. I'm not going to edit it. I'll just tell you what the heck I'm supposed to do. Don't do that. Don't do it. I just did it. That could happen. But I think that we're going to come up with a really beautiful drawing today. The subject matter, somebody wouldn't mind buying this, I bet, you know. Oh, I like that. You have a periwinkle, I think that's what that is, you know, like kind of spiral seashell, you know, in a bird's nest. I've never seen that. And, you know, might be surprised who will like to purchase your art. And a lot has to do with what you're saying, you know, the subject matter. That's called content, subject matter. And then the way you're saying it, that's the formal, that's the handling, you know. Formal is like the materials, the form. Content and form. Content is the way what you're trying to say, and then form is like what you're using to say it. So I'm using charcoal and charcoal paper. That's the form, right? The content is like this idea, like, wow, there's an idea. There's a seashell inside of a bird's nest. That's the content. So these two things, you know, work together, and you can get a really salient, you know, work of art if you really wrestle with these things. And that's what we're doing right now with this drawing. And as you get more interested in your career as an artist, if you're so inclined, you start getting more and more into like what you're gonna say. But I think that you should also concern yourself with how you're gonna say it. I don't think one should fall by the wayside. So I'm just defining this form through values. I can't get it as dark as what it is yet. We're going to do that with the compressed charcoal. And again, I'll tell you what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to, I think, work over here, the back, and then from the back to the front. But I sort of just meandered around here. So I just want to let you know, you might want to, you know, go back and then front. So I'm gonna get myself back over here. Get going, Melvin. Get over there, Melvin. So here we are. See that? And I'm going to take all the time we need. I'm not going to rush this video. If this video is like 4 hours long, so be it, you know. I'll just divide it up into parts for you to look at. It's not going to be that long. But I don't want to rush this, you know. I'm not Bob Ross. I don't know. He used to bang out all these waterfalls and sunset paintings and lighthouses in I think a half hour, right? Was that? It's been a while since I've seen him, but he had a thing going, that's for sure. It's like he's the first YouTuber before the YouTube generation, right? That guy. Or something, in a way, because there's a lot of demos on YouTube. There's like a demo, how to fold a napkin. You know? Who knows? There's probably somebody actually having a video on how to fold napkins. You never know what's on there. How to walk your dog. I bet that there's a video on there, you know, how to walk your dog. How much you want to bet? Look it up and get back to me on that one. How to know if your cat's plotting to kill you. How's that for a topic? What are the signs of your kitty plotting against you? Know the clues. So here we go. You know, I'm going to come over here now. Like, watch this right here. There's a value shift with this blade. I'm going to call this a blade of grass, because that's where it's a big old blade of grass. And this here is a little bit darker. I can tone it down with my vine charcoal. And like, we could pick on that for a minute. We could say, well, that's not the end product, right? That's not the finished version of that. So let's do that right here. Let's come in here and let it know what's up. Kind of tapers to a point here. I want to hit it so bad with a white charcoal pencil, but we got to refrain. I'm going to hold off on that. The reason why is because if you go back and forth with the white charcoal and the charcoal, blah blah blah, you get a muddy type of a look. So that's why I just did this thing over here just to show you, you know, what you get with the contrast of the white charcoal versus just with an eraser. And usually I just hold off until the end, and so we'll get back into that when the video's when the demo's close to done. I'll be able to hit this with the white charcoal more. So let's just see what we can do with this. So you see that? And now I'm gonna really get it in there, because it's supposed to be like a little bit thinner up there and a little bit thicker down here. And let it know what's up. So let's come over here with this. See how I'm cleaning up my stub? I don't know if you can see me doing that, but I'm cleaning up the stub on the side here. See, I got my face in here because I have to see the detail. Gotta see what the heck I'm doing. So that's almost like what it's supposed to be. I did this trick where this side is soft and this side's hard. They kind of give it a sense of, you know, an edge fading into the dark. And that's just a trick that I know. It sort of works. With the blender, I can even draw. Get some tonal activity going on right here. See that? How I did that? Very important. You know, and I might want to continue with this whole idea because I have to go back to front. That's my technique. When I shade, you have to have a plan. You have to have a system. You don't want to just be all over the place. So, like, we first got the shape established with Vine charcoal, and then cleaned it up with compressed charcoal pencil. And then we got the background established. We have a format where it's dark back here, and then it gets lighter down here. And then we decided to really clean it up before we get into the foreground. And so the idea is to go from back to front, back to front. That's what we're doing. Okay, drawing was almost going to come off the wall here. And so have a system, have a plan, have an idea about what you're doing. So right now the plan is I'm going to really clean up these stragglers, these guys out in the fringe. And like there's even one that might not even exist. Oh no, yeah, it's here, it's there, I see it. Never mind. This one is back, and it loops around, gets off, it's cropped off the frame, and comes back down, and it's in front of, hovering above the nest, which is pretty cool. When in doubt, draw something from nature. You know, like, oh, I don't know what to draw. Just look all over the place and you'll see. You know, just walk to the park, you know, you'll see something. And I say, like, you know, don't draw from photographs. I don't know if I really mean that. I said something like don't use your phone. I mean, there's ways of breaking all those rules. Like I said, if I was a portrait painter, I was going to paint the president, you know, I'd take pictures of the president, you know, this, that, and the other thing. Do studies, do gesture drawings and different compositional arrangements, you know, with the sitter there, and then I go to my studio and start putting it together with my high resolution photographs, you know. You know, you have to, you know, do what you can to get your work accomplished, but the idea is though to be there in life and do what's called a session, where you have your model and you draw from life. And I think that's why it's great to do these still lifes. I could have photographed this and plopped it right over here and just copy. And there's nothing wrong with that when you're, you know, trying to meet a deadline and all this. And it's also like it's good for a study, you know. Know the difference, you know. You draw a still life from a photograph and you draw one from real life. Like, I think that you'll know that illustrators use photographs a lot, and that's just the name of the game, you know. So I'm not like, you know, Strang Verboten, you know, as the saying goes. You know, I'm not that kind of an art Nazi, because I use photographs myself. But we are studying. You're studying right now, and you will get so much out of this by doing these things. I guarantee. So right now, just concentrating on back there.